From the cliffs of Cornwall to Kilimanjaro, The Trekker's Tale by Eric Marks. I did not know what a life-focusing event I was letting myself in for at the dinner that evening. You may have experienced something similar. You listen, captivated, to a friend talking enthusiastically about some upcoming event that has the lure of adventure about it. Then, out of the blue, you are invited to join your friend on this trip of a lifetime. You hesitate, but after a couple of glasses of good wine, you know that this is an irresistible force. I hesitated for a while longer in order to give the impression that I was a carefully reasoning sort of guy. But I knew that I was hooked. My life had changed to a different level, to a different tempo. What a strange thing to have happened in my 76th year. In my mind, I was still in my early 20s, just as well when I reflected on what lay ahead of me. The friend in this case was my nephew, Jonathan. He wanted desperately to climb a substantial mountain, and Kilimanjaro in Tanzania was his choice. He had no idea just how difficult it would be to get a climbing buddy, and after exhausting his list of probables and possibles, he unleashed his persuasive magic on me, a last resort. But first, let me tell you something about ourselves before we all set out together on what was to be quite an adventure. This adventure I will never forget, not only because it turned out to be so exhilarating, but also because it was stunningly different from what I expected it to be. My nephew Jonathan was 48 and very keen on staying fit and healthy. He worked out regularly in his local gym, but lived in a part of the country that is lacking in hills. In fact, it is pancake flat. Clearly, this was not ideal training ground for big hills and mountains. Being in a quite high position in the Metropolitan Police, he was a resourceful guy. He travelled down from London to where I live in Plymouth for training on the steep ground of Dartmoor and, of course, on the southwest coast path for its frequently steep and testing terrain. Another incentive for travelling down to visit my wife, Judith, and me is that we always fed him well. His mother, Vivian, Judith's sister, also lives in Plymouth. She provided him with accommodation and also fed him well to keep his strength up. Jonathan lives for sport of all types, and indeed it could be said that sport is his life, next to his family. John, as he prefers to be called, had picked up several sports injuries in his career. These would need to be treated with great care in the course of our training and the Kilimanjaro expedition itself. It was these injuries that would possibly give me a chance to keep up to his pace over the many trials ahead of us. Time would tell. John is quite tall, good-looking in a rugged outdoor way, and has a powerful build. He has even less hair than I have, and that is saying something, believe me. His favourite clothing is shorts and t-shirt, but this may not have been viable on the heights of Kilimanjaro after the first day or two. John loves to talk with people when we are out walking, often within seconds, and this is shameful. He has them believing that he is my carer and that I am on day release. It's amazing how many people accept what he says, even when I tell them that he's telling porkies. As regards his general effect upon me, let me say right here at the outset that I have the highest regard for John. He is inspirational, he is also reliable, especially in an emergency. His long years in the police have helped to shape him into someone special. He is intelligent and knowledgeable, just the sort of guy to have with you if things take a turn for the worse. John is a great non-fiction reader with wide-ranging knowledge. A possible downside is that he doesn't always suffer fools gladly. Clearly, I would need to be careful in what I said and did. So, what about me? What can I tell you that will help to illuminate the events that are about to unfold? Having left the Royal Marines in 1969, I had kept myself reasonably fit. This had been achieved mainly by regular walking with our various Labradors over the years and occasional 2-day backpacking trips. But all that changed when, at the age of 72, I joined my local gym. I had gradually become aware that my level of activity was not adequate to keep me in good condition for my later years. Something had to be done, and fast, because the body keeps a careful reckoning. Joining the gym was a revelation to me. The high-tech nature of the gym equipment was far removed from what I remembered about my days in the armed services. In those days, there were wall bars, vaulting horses, medicine balls, skipping ropes, climbing ropes, and not much else. That being said, the assault courses and endurance marches on Dartmoor more than made up for the lack of gym equipment. I engaged with much of the new fitness gear and machines in the local gym, and within a few months I became fitter and stronger. Little did I know at that time just how essential all this was to become in 3 years' time, when John invited me to join him on this African adventure. But first, let me tell you some more about the two of us and about our similarities and striking differences. This was to become important over our months of training and on the expedition itself. John enjoys fine food and wine, whereas I have little interest in food other than as fuel for my active life. Although I do enjoy a glass of wine. I love the stoical lot of the backpacker, walking alone, carrying everything I need for a few days of camping. The feeling of self-sufficiency gives me a real buzz. John, on the other hand, detests camping. I am sure that he would also decline the alfresco food I would serve up to him at the end of a hard day's backpacking. I also am a keen reader, but generally in literature and non-fiction, but particularly in Stoic philosophy. John loves the modern popular music scene, whereas I am steeped in classical music from the Renaissance to the present time. When it comes to walking interests, John is mainly in love with the lure of the big mountains. I am much more enamored with distance walking over attractive but often challenging countryside. As you can appreciate, I was stepping outside my comfort zone when it came to our expedition to Mount Kilimanjaro. Having said that, John was also stepping outside his comfort zone and into a nightmare, as the route he eventually decided on involved several days of camping. This wasn't spotted at the outset when John booked the trip. Glad it wasn't me. Now let's talk commitment. Let's go for it, as we were summoned to do on some of the premium priced sports gear. Yes, it was time to select a specialist travel company, book the expedition, and pay our deposits in resolute style. I hope you are adventure ready for what was about to happen over the months of training that lay ahead, and then the trip of a lifetime to Africa and the great Kilimanjaro volcano. Now, let's go forward, because I cannot wait to tell you this story. See you in chapter 2.